All right, let's dive into a mystery that I bet every single one of us has run into, whether it's at work, in our communities, or heck, even in our own families. It's this incredibly frustrating puzzle.
You know that feeling, right? You've got a problem, you come up with a really smart, logical fix, you put in all this work, and somehow things end up even worse than when you started. Why does that happen? Why do our best efforts so often blow up in our faces?
And this quote from our source material, man, it just nails it. The issue isn't that we're lazy or not smart enough. The issue is that the very way we see the problem is what's trapping us. Those obvious fixes we're so proud of, they often become the seeds of the next disaster. So let's figure out why.
So, our investigation is going to start by looking at a couple of classic ways things go off the rails. And this first pattern shows us something really surprising. A lot of the time, the problem isn't the people, it's the system they're stuck inside.
First up, we've got this thing called accidental adversaries. This is where you have two groups who are actually trying to achieve the exact same thing, but they end up in a fight, making life miserable for each other. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because the system they're in has secretly pitted them against each other. The perfect example of this involved two giants, Procter & Gamble and Walmart.
So check this out. What's so wild about this is how perfectly logical each company's plan was when you look at it by itself. Both P&G and Walmart wanted to make the whole system more profitable. P&G thought, hey, let's run price promotions. We'll sell more stuff. Makes total sense. But for Walmart, that created these insane swings in demand. So Walmart did the logical thing from their end. Okay, we'll keep our inventory super low and just order a ton when there's a sale. The result? Absolute chaos. Walmart's orders became a nightmare for P&G to predict. They became enemies by accident, each one doing the smart thing, and together creating a system that hurt them both.
Okay, this next one, I'm pretty sure we've all lived this one. This is the classic short-term fix that feels great for a minute, but ends up creating a much, much bigger problem down the road. It's the quick solution that kicks off a vicious cycle.
And this flowchart just lays it out perfectly. Let's walk through it. So step 1, you're feeling the pressure on the budget. We've all been there. Step 2, the obvious fix, right? Let's cut headcount to save money. And hey, for a little while, the numbers look better. But then, step 3, morale just tanks. The people who are left are overworked, they're stressed, they're scared. Step 4, naturally, that leads to lower productivity. And then, step 5, here's the killer twist, your costs actually start to go up because of mistakes, people quitting, and general inefficiency. The very problem you tried to solve is now worse than ever.
So, if our logical fixes are actually part of the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, the answer is to learn how to see the things that are normally invisible. It's about developing a completely new way of looking at the world to understand the hidden forces that are really running the show.
And this new way of seeing things, it has a name. Systems thinking, and it is a huge shift. Instead of just looking at the individual pieces, the budget, the headcount, that one promotion, we learn to see the whole pattern. We start focusing on the connections, the relationships, and how all these different parts are influencing each other over time.
To really get this, let's compare the two ways of looking at things. So on the left, you've got the old way, the static perspective. This is where we see problems as just these isolated events. Sales are down this month, costs are up this quarter. But on the right is the dynamic perspective. This is where we stop looking at snapshots and we start watching the whole movie. We see the patterns playing out over time, and this is the important part. We start asking why. What are the hidden structures underneath that are creating these patterns in the first place?
And the crazy thing is, these systems actually have their own kind of language, with building blocks we can learn to spot. You have things like reinforcing loops, which create momentum, either for growth or for decline. Like a rumor spreading or a viral video. Then there are balancing loops, which try to keep things stable, kind of like the thermostat in your house. And finally, the secret ingredient that gums up the works, delays. Think about it, the delay between when you feel sick and when you finally go to the doctor. That little gap in time can change everything, but it's the thing we almost always forget to look for.
Okay, so seeing the system out there is a huge step, but that's only half the battle. There's another piece of this puzzle, and it's a lot closer to home. It's not just about the system out there. It's about the system inside our own heads.
You see, every single one of us has these mental models, these deeply ingrained beliefs about how the world is supposed to work. They're like these internal maps we use to get around. The real problem is, we don't even know we're using a map. We think our map is the world. And if your map is wrong, it doesn't matter how fast you run. You're just going to get more lost.
So how do you even begin to spot these hidden maps?
Start by asking this one simple but kind of scary question about your own team or organization. What can't we talk about? What are those undiscussable topics that everybody knows are real but nobody dares to bring up? Those are the dragons guarding our most powerful and probably most flawed mental models.
And man, when you do bring these things out in the open, it can get intense. There's this story from the source material about a steel plant where managers and union guys were trying to have a real dialogue. The tension just kept building and building until finally one of the workers just exploded with this. He was just fed up. He'd heard all the talk before and nothing ever changed. The whole room just went dead silent.
But here's the wild part. What looked like a total breakdown was actually the breakthrough they needed. That moment of raw, painful honesty, what the source calls superheat, it broke the dam. And the next morning, everybody came back to the table. They actually wanted to talk more. That explosion of conflict, of finally saying the unsayable, it created a level of trust that just wasn't there before.
All right, so we've seen how systems trap us and how our own thinking keeps us stuck. Now for the really cool part. How do we get out? How do we move from just putting out fires to actually truly creating the future that we want?
And believe it or not, it all starts with you. The very first step is to connect with what you, as an individual, really care about. What is your personal vision? What is it that you, deep down, really want to build or create in your work and in your life?
And when you do that, it sparks this huge shift in how you approach everything. See, most of us, most of the time, are stuck in a reactive orientation. We're just responding to emails, putting out fires, getting pushed around by circumstances. The goal is to flip that, to move into a creative orientation. That's where you stop being a victim of the system and you start seeing yourself as the architect of your future. You're not just reacting anymore, you're creating.
And this is where the magic really happens. When you get a whole group of people, all coming from that creative place, and they start connecting their own personal visions to some bigger, shared vision, something incredible happens. They find what's called alignment.
This quote from the source material just beautifully describes what that feels like. This isn't about top-down orders or just getting people to comply. It's a state where everyone on the team understands the shared vision so deeply that they just instinctively know the right thing to do. Their actions become coordinated and smart and almost effortless, just like a flock of birds that can turn and swoop in perfect unison without a leader calling out commands.
So that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Just imagine the difference. Imagine the energy, the creativity, the sense of purpose. If people showed up to work not because they had to, not because the boss told them to, but because they were part of building something they genuinely believed in. Just think about what would be possible then.